My sister's son tossed my graduation cake onto the floor and said, "Eat it off the ground." Everyone at the table laughed. I stayed silent. Later that evening, my mom texted, "We decided to cut all ties. Stay away forever." My sister was pleased. I replied that I would be removing my name from every loan tomorrow. By midnight, the group chat was buzzing. I had 100 missed calls. Hey, Reddit, graduation day was supposed to be the moment I finally felt acknowledged. Not celebrated, not praised, just acknowledged. After years of late nights, student loans, juggling 2 part-time jobs, and pushing through school without my family supporting me, all for that one moment on stage. But instead, graduation day turned into a lesson that my family never wanted to see me succeed at all. After the ceremony, Mom suggested we gather at my sister's favorite restaurant. Not mine, not a place I enjoyed, hers. That should have been my first hint. The second hint, the entire family was already seated when I got there. No one stood up to greet me. No one congratulated me. My sister Claire just smirked and said, "Oh, look, she made it." I swallowed my irritation and took a seat. Lunch was exactly what you'd expect when the black sheep graduates. Everyone spoke over me. Nobody asked about my degree. Every story somehow twisted back to Claire's achievements. Still, I kept a polite smile plastered on my face because I had learned long ago that when your family wants to keep you small, you never give them the satisfaction of seeing you upset. Mom had brought a cake. Not the one I liked, of course, but it still had congratulations written on it. That was more than I had anticipated. When the waiter brought it out, I felt a flicker of warmth inside me. Maybe today wouldn't be so bad. Mom handed the knife to my sister's 10-year-old son, Mason, and said, "Go ahead, sweetie. You can cut it." I blinked. "It's my graduation cake," I said softly. Mom waved it off. "He's a kid. Let him have some fun." Before I could respond, Mason picked up the cake, held it in both hands, and with the cheeky grin of someone who had never heard the word no, he tossed the cake onto the floor. Bam! Frosting splattered everywhere. The cake flattened like a crushed flower. Everyone gasped, but Mason just grinned wider, pointed at the mess, and shouted, "Eat it off the ground." And the whole table erupted in laughter. My mother, my father, my sister, her husband, everyone. They laughed as frosting slid across the floor. They laughed as Mason stomped on the edges. They laughed while I sat there frozen, my face burning. I didn't move, didn't cry, didn't say a word, but I felt something in my chest crack quietly, like a heart breaking after too many hits. I stood up calmly, grabbed my bag, and without saying anything, walked toward the door. My sister called after me, laughing, "Relax, it's just a cake." Someone else chimed in, "Don't be dramatic. It's not a big deal." But I didn't look back. When someone publicly humiliates you, you deny them the pleasure by refusing to react. I walked out of that restaurant with my head held high, even if my heart was shattered on the floor along with that cake. Later that evening, while sitting alone on my couch, still in my graduation dress, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. I expected something like, "Are you okay?" or "We didn't mean to upset you." Instead, the message read, "We've decided to cut all ties. Stay away forever." I stared at those words for a long moment, stunned. Then another notification popped up. My sister had liked the message. I exhaled a slow, shaky breath. Not because I was heartbroken, but because something inside me finally clicked into place. I replied with a single message, stating I would be removing my name from every loan tomorrow. I didn't hit send in anger. I hit send with clarity. 4 years, I had co-signed 2 major loans for my parents. Big check, one for their house refinance. Big check, one for my sister's business loan. They needed my credit. They needed my signature. And they always assumed I would silently bear their burdens, no matter how they treated me. But they forgot something. They told me to stay away forever. My silence had seemed weak to them, but now my silence had consequences. It started innocently enough. 1 message, then 3, then 12. At first from Mom. "Wait, what do you mean you're removing your name from the loans?" Then Dad. "You can't do that. Don't be stupid." Then my sister. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Then her husband. "Are you insane? The business depends on that loan." Then Mom again. "You ungrateful brat. How dare you threaten us?" The messages came faster, more frantic, more desperate. Then the calls began, over and over. My phone lit up like fireworks. 30 missed calls. 5479. By midnight, 100 missed calls. I watched the screen in silence. Phone face down on the coffee table, vibrations rattling against the wood like an angry heartbeat. That's when I realized they didn't love me. They never cared about me. They cared about what they could take from me, about what I offered, about what I could provide. As long as I was useful, I was family. Once I stopped being useful, I became disposable. So, I let the phone keep ringing and ringing and ringing. I didn't answer. Not one call, not one message. Not even the ones that shifted from anger to panic. Mom, please don't do this. Dad, we can work something out. Sister, you're overreacting. We need your signature. Husband, if my business fails, it's your fault. Mom, again, we didn't mean forever. Don't be childish. Dad, if you pull out, we will lose everything. I leaned back on my couch, arms crossed, feeling warmth return to my chest. For the first time in my life, their panic wasn't my issue. My only regret was that I didn't choose myself sooner, and that's where the chaos began. I hit send on that message, and then waited. It felt oddly ceremonial. 2 sentences that closed an old chapter, removing my name from every loan tomorrow. I set my phone face down and didn't touch it. The group chat exploded all afternoon with frantic, entitled pleas, a wounded mix of shock more than sorrow. They came to my house, shouting on the porch, begging. They invoked family, history, and duty like shields. They flung guilt like dinner plates and expected me to catch them all and keep smiling. But this time, I had already taken the practical step first. I called the bank. Good morning, this is Charlotte. I'm the co-signer on loan number. I'd like to start the process to be removed as guarantor. The hold music hummed like a metronome, and I felt steadier with every tick. The bank explained the process. The primary borrowers would need to refinance or show sufficient income, or the lender could call the note. In short, the consequences of removing a co-signer were very real. Either your co-borrower stands on their own, or the bank forces the issue. I had quietly prepared for months. I paid extra where I could, tightened my budget, and met with a lawyer who guided me on how to proceed. I wasn't angry, I was methodical. When the bank opened the case, panic set in on the other end of the phone. My family's crisis began with fits and tremors, frantic texts, threatening voicemails, a fundraiser idea that smelled suspiciously like, ask the daughter, who has always been reliable. That afternoon, their financial world began to crumble. Lee, my sister Claire's husband, ran a small events company that had never quite been stable. Their investors had been patient as long as the family's collateral looked secure. When the bank explained to my parents and Claire that refinancing depended on proof of income and additional documents, Lee's backers began to seek assurances. He had none. Investors started to withdraw. Partners demanded immediate clarity. Small, polite emails turned into hard questions about liquidity and guarantees. And when those guarantees started to waver, the illusion of solvency unraveled. Messages in the family thread became more desperate. Dad, you can't do this. It's our home. Mom, please sign something temporary. Claire, you're ruining us. Lee, if this goes, I'll lose the business. I read them while sipping coffee, feeling the calm absurdity of watching a house of cards built on other people's credit finally collapse under its own weight. Because the truth about their reliance was simple, they had spent other people's faith for years. My name was convenient leverage. My silence had been currency they spent freely. Claire's panic was performative at first, frantic Instagram stories, thin-skinned public attempts to turn embarrassment into sympathy, but the financial pressure couldn't be smoothed over by social media. The company's partners withdrew their letter of intent. The bank demanded audited statements. The foundation of their stability flooded. My parents tried borrowing from friends, pawning heirlooms, contacting distant relatives, every last stitch of familial obligation. People who had once applauded Claire's parties now assessed their risk and quietly declined. It got uglier. Claire's husband claimed I was orchestrating everything. Mom accused me of cruelty. Dad's voice turned to a rasp of righteous blame. They tried the tactics that had worked for them for years: guilt, shame, drama, and when those didn't sway me, their methods grew frantic. It's the house. Lee texted me one night. You don't understand what you're doing. If this goes, Claire loses everything. Her kids. I didn't reply because I understood perfectly well. I understood how they traded my years of help for entitlement, how they expected me to pay the price for their comfort. I had been the safety net for a decade of irresponsibility. I had paid for silence in small, invisible amounts, covering late mortgage payments, endorsing signatures, signing papers as if love were the same thing as liability. No more. They approached me again, this time with a packet of papers and a plan that read like an ultimatum. Sign a temporary guarantee. We'll pitch investors, refinance. Life will go on as usual. Mom leaned on the porch and cried in that performative way that had always rendered her helpless and compelling. Please, she said. We'll refinance. We'll pay. Sign this, Claire insisted. Make up for running from stress, and everything will be okay. Just help us now. The sheet of paper smelled like the old bargain, the unspoken contract that had always existed in our family, my compliance in exchange for a place to belong. I looked at their faces, a fragile mix of fear and expectation. I thought of Mason's grin on that crushed cake. I thought about every time they made me small, so someone else could look good. No, I said. They froze. You told me to stay away, I continued. You told me to leave. Now you're asking me to save you. I won't erase the hurt just so you can find comfort. I'm not becoming the safety net for the same people who pushed me down. They accused me of being cruel. They called me selfish. They begged. But every plea was marked on a ledger I had closed. The bank foreclosed on the property. 2 months later, Claire's business collapsed. Investors quietly vanished. The house, once a stage for their curated life, was sold to cover the debt. They moved into a smaller rental. Their posts grew quieter. Did I feel triumphant? Not really. I felt something calmer and steadier relief. My quiet apartment felt less like exile and more like a refuge. I still worried about Claire's children. I still had painful memories, but I slept better. I began rebuilding properly without hidden sacrifices. I kept my lawyer on speed dial, rebuilt my savings, and hosted dinners for friends who chose to be there, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely wanted my company. We laughed, sometimes burned the lasagna, and no one cared. The table we used was scarred, small and perfect. Months later, my phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed. The text read, "We are so sorry. Can we come by?" I replied with one sentence, "We can talk," but not as if nothing happened. It was the beginning of something, not a restoration, but an opening to an honesty I had never allowed them to earn. I kept my promise to myself. I maintained my boundaries. I learned that sometimes the kindest mercy is refusing to be collateral damage in other people's stories.